Hello, YouTube friends. I'm going to call this little rumination I'm going to do, this noodling, for Howdie Mickoski. And I've come across quite a number of, what's a lot? Maybe 50, 60 different people over YouTube time that I've come across and spent a little more time on. I mean, there's probably more, but let's say out of 50 and 60, there might have been 3, 4, or 5 that are quite pertinent to my way of seeing and thinking about things, feeling things. Interestingly, none of them have been artists, which is interesting. Let's see, this light is off. Let me fix this. That feels a bit better. It's not so intense like on the, yeah. Anyway, the relevance, what I was talking about was the relevance that people have, the interest I feel generated in me, just like as a curious person. I'm curious, I'm wondering, I'm trying to piece things together, using my own experience, using other people's perception of how things really work. It's a nice, noodling is a nice way to put it, because it's kind of like not expecting a particular answer or outcome. It's like a noodle is floppy all over the place, and in the end, it may, there may be some revelation of some kind. So what I'm going to talk about, this is what I call for Howdie Mickoski. It's not really for Howdie Mickoski, uh, because the guy is pretty well oriented in the right way, from what I can tell. Another one that I had quite a bit of respect for is someone I refer to and criticize as well, Cliff High. He deserves criticism, I think. He's quite caught up in some sort of a there is a bit of a dogmatic feeling about the guy, although he has incredible across the board knowledge. But that isn't always a good thing, because it tends to create a hubris of some kind. And there is deserved respect, and then there is hubris which demands respect, if you know what I mean. If a person has a level of arrogance, there is the arrogance for me is the person demanding respect in some way, and I don't like that. So there is an underlying criticism I have for arrogant people. I'm not saying they don't have something to offer me, but what actually is in some ways more important is a sense of openness and humility that needs to be communicated, not just every now and then. But this is something that I feel this Howdie, for me, presents himself with an openness, but a clarity and determination. It's not arrogance, there is a conviction, let's say. And he has opened a door for me that has been ajar. There's been like light coming through this crack for me ever since the shit show called COVID, the fake emergency, proven 100%. Anyone that is still thinking, oh, the retards walking around with masks and all the sort of ordinances that came down from Mount Olympus, how we need to behave because of some kind of a virus. These have all been shown to have been completely fake and erroneous. It's a shit science in a shit show. And this is a whole other topic, how institutions, systems that have populated our reality, any kind of institution within this system of reality, what we understand the functioning all around us, it's populated incredibly by institutions from on all levels, from educational to religious to political to medical to scientific to geographical, historical. You go through all the different um, levels of understanding that is institutionalized, has all been co-opted, hijacked, in my opinion, to seduce us for some reason. I don't know. Uh, let's just leave why it is the way it is. I'm going to address that as well, why things are the way they are. But, how things truly are is a mystery, ultimately. Maybe also there's a reason behind that mystery, as Howdie refers to it as a memory wipe. Okay, so there is a difference between a mystery and a memory wipe. A memory wipe would be something where literally we understand something, but we have no recollection of it. But there may be remnants, there may be residues of knowledge and understanding, and I'm going to get to this. And this is something that maybe Howdie can use in his own understanding. And it has directly to do with creativity, art, the idea behind uh, having, and I'm assuming that you've come across this Howdie guy because he's worth listening to. He basically says that reality, as we experience it, is fundamentally a simulation. And we're just players, kind of arbitrary cogs, the way that Metropolis, Fritz Lang, I think, was the director in 1930 or 28, the silent movie Metropolis, where everybody was just an automaton fitting into their slot in a reality that was functioning not for anybody like us. We think, well, this somehow is there for us. Institutions are there for us. On the contrary, we're there for them. Whatever institution you believe to be on your side, you're wrong. You're not, you're basically their food. It's not the other way around. They're not feeding us, we're feeding them. And this goes into the simulation idea that Howdie brings up, that the simulation, in fact, is a creation of some very nefarious, to us, as we experience it, it has a very nefarious origin, whenever it might have begun. And these are assumptions. These are not provable, except for one very important fact. I spoke with an acquaintance today. He's not a friend, but I've had contact with him on and off, and he's become a Jehovah Witness, and he needs to belong to a club, and he was trying to induct me into the club of worshiping his Jehovah, his God, whatever. And I just gave him a quick phrase because he's like really tied into the Jesus story. And I said, well, you're telling me about God and all this and how you have to, recognize this supreme being and worship and whatever. And I said, well, the supreme being you talk about supposedly had a son that became flesh, and the son said to us that the kingdom of God is within. He was a little puzzled. He said, oh, where was that? And I said, it's Luke 21:17 or something, or 17:21. I don't remember the exact. You can find it. The kingdom of God is within. It has different sort of not interpretations, but the way it's phrased, it's differently with different apostles, supposedly. Anyway, the notion of being subservient, in a sense, to an external force. And if you think about this reality being a creation by some external entity, it's not from within. Maybe it is. That we're all part, the essence of us, as Howdie refers to, not the soul. He says there is an essence, this essence that is part of the substance of this simulation. It are the essences. I don't know how many there are in 8 billion humans, maybe animals included, that actually formulate the simulation, possibly. Who knows? We are responsible for, because we are seduced, duped. We become just like Metropolis, Fritz Lang, I think that was the director, has us fitting into little the cogs fitting into their place and running the machine in a proper way. That the notion of worship is very troublesome. For, number one, the omnipotent being, if such a consciousness were to be exactly the way people think, why would it need to be worshipped? It makes no sense, because would I give a shit if I'm omnipotent that people run around saying, oh, great omnipotence, great omnipotence? It would make no sense, right? It's like, no, I don't need you little peons to worship me, just do what you do. That's a whole other thing. Do what you do. What's the interest the omnipotent being has in us, period? Unless we are, in our essence, kingdom of God is within, the kingdom of heaven, in another version, is within, are in fact this omnipotence that is at the core of what we understand to be creation. And creation is a vast subject, because it's not just the physical world. Creation includes that world that I have a romance with eternity, as I always say. I am connected to something that is not just physical. I made some notes. I don't know if I disrupt my train of thought when I look at, the notes. I'm just sort of going, when I say I noodle, literally it's what I'm doing. I just let things rise to the surface and I comment. And the essence of my impetus, or my impetus today, was to augment to some extent Howdie Mickoski's speculation that this is a simulation, to the extent that we are, I was going to say the proof that this is a simulation that is quite nefarious and dysfunctional is the level of suffering and pain that appears to be virtually for every human being on this earth. Even if you lead a charmed life, there are going to be instances where there is anxiety and fear. Whether it's from internal source or external, I don't care. There's always some level of pain, suffering, fear. There is exaltation, which actually in the spectrum of emotions and feelings add exactly the same way to the negative side of the spectrum and the positive side of the spectrum. Let's say terror and fear and anxiety and love and wonderfulness on the other side are all essentially the same to the nefariousness of this simulation, as he says. I would say the proof is how dysfunctional this entire experience actually is when you truly look at it, even in the short lifespan that we have, whatever that might be. And most of us never come to recognize, it's like it's in German, it's nur so, which means, it just is what it is, and so what, I don't care. Well, a thoughtful human being may not feel comfortable with that. A human being like myself doesn't feel comfortable with just saying, it just happens. Or the Darwinian thing about, it's evolution, it just happens. Nur so, it just happens. And the proof for me is that the level of suffering is too extreme for there have been something of my essence involved in the nature of this existence. My essence says it's wrong. My conscience, now this is for Howdie, I always bring this up. It's what divides a human being from another human being in the sense of being on the right side of things. And this is something, of course. Well, not just of course, it is actually something that we need to be very aware of, that we are functioning on a level of conscience which precedes, as Howdie talks about, compassion, sympathy, that kind of element of our ability, that we're able to be compassionate and sympathetic, is essential in our growth, if you want, toward a resolution of what this might mean, what the simulation concept might mean. It's extremely important. Howdie, this is what I'm saying. Conscience is pivotal to this entire thing making sense, at least to me, because my conscience says it's wrong. Whatever it is that I contribute to that creates suffering, creates problems, or what I see around me, that part in me that has a conscience says, it is so fucked up. What a shit show this reality really is. Exemplified by the shit show they put on us just a few years ago, starting in 2020. This entire experience is so brutal in its essence. It's wrong, which to me then suggests Howdie has a point. This is a reality created not for what we think to be from a benevolent, omnipotent consciousness being, but from something quite nefarious, something that is not connected to the essence. The kingdom of heaven is within, or the kingdom of God is within. It doesn't come from that. It comes from somewhere else. And this is something that a lot of the religious types fail to acknowledge. They always sort of say, there's always this sort of thing, oh, how could the omnipotent being, how could God allow people to be purged from the earth in genocides and all those things? Oh, where's the God? Well, it has nothing to do with the omnipotent being. What this reality represents is the twisted, fucked up aspect of something that is part of our essence, but somehow has gone mucky fuck. It's gone wrong. And there are stories around how explanations of what it is, the fallen angels and all of that, right? It's gone wrong. Something went mucky fuck, which leads me back to the idea, again, thoughtfulness. How could an omnipotent consciousness just permit this wrongness? Let's say, if there is such a thing as permitting something, I don't know how eternity would work. I have no clue. I have no idea. This is like human speculation on, if something isn't right and you're the omnipotent consciousness, why do you let it happen in the first place? There's curiosity of how we handle it. Well, fuck you, omnipotent consciousness. I'm not, I don't want to be your little guinea pig. I'm not interested in that. So there's something wrong with the idea of, like Cliff High goes into this, oh yeah, novelty. I want to explore novelty and see how things could actually turn out. And Terence McKenna, it's like time wave zero. Everything is compacting and it's getting blowing up. Big bang again. These brilliant minds who go through enormous mental conniptions in order to justify something. But there is a legitimate question for me why this fallenness would occur in the first place. Is it something that we're responsible for, in the sense that we are part of this omnipotent consciousness in our essence, or has it been imposed on our essence by some higher level functionary supreme consciousness, maybe not supreme or alternate supreme consciousness, that sort of infiltrated the eternity with its nefarious garbage shit show? I don't know if I'm making sense here, because it seems right in my mind to ask these questions. Are they the right way of formulating them, though? I don't know. You'll have to decide for yourself. And what essentially, like when I say for Howdie, what I'm attempting to put forward is that, are we part? He says we're not at fault for any of the things that are happening. And I believe he's right, in the sense that people always look for reasons why they're fucked up, and, karma and all that kind of stuff. You do something bad happens to you. Is it your fault? Well, no. It's the way the system is set up. If it is a simulation, the simulation within it needs to create fault in order to have levels of energetic emotions that, as he says, feed these parasites, the fallen ones, okay? You need to listen to his stuff in order to get a sense of his proposition. What I'm adding to what he's saying is that, is there a level of, I was going to say compliance, or no, that's not enough. There's more behind it. Is there a level of direction in our own essence that is responsible for the continuation rather than the ceasing. I think it might be a nuanced thing here, but is there a level of responsibility? So this leads me into his conclusion that the effort we need to make while we are in this vessel, this bag of blood, whatever you want to call it, it's very crucial for us to move toward a resolution of ending this. I agree with him that our own essence, that inner whatever kingdom that is, that relates us to this omnipotent consciousness. And I'm not going to get into any kind of, speculation on, omnipotent consciousness allowing this to be all. That's a sideshow. Maybe that's another discussion. But the idea that he has is, as he says, exit or empty the cave. The cave being this reality or simulation. Very clearly nefarious. Not what it appears to be, as I've always said, but I've never put these words specifically to it, which is why I regard highly this Howdie Mickoski. So I made some notes on the idea, the structure behind all of this, but let me synopsize all my notes by saying that whatever this essence in a true human being, whatever that essence might be, in its relationship to the omnipotent essence, whatever you want to, picture yourself in, that fundamental structure does not exonerate us from just sort of taking it up the ass. Okay? It's like just to say, okay, things are really shitty and we just accept as it is. No, I say we need to make an effort, the way he says. We need to make an effort to empty or exit the cave. That metaphor that he goes into, I highly recommend his YouTube videos. I haven't read his book. I'm going to get it. I'll read his entirety here. So it is really important. What's really important for me? Okay, I had 5 or 6 thoughts. Maybe this is one of the abilities to continuously have the relevant thoughts expressed and not get in the way. The structure behind our essential being, which is not of this world, but we're stuck in it in some way or other. The structure that is significant to you and me as human beings that have, as he says, the soul and the essence, and as he's speculated as well, that, and I would concur with this, that there are human beings that are not fully functioning as what I understand to be, for myself, a fully functional human being with conscience very much intact, very much operative in my day-to-day life. There are people that I come across that have true, whether they're lapses or whether they're just, failures in design or lacking this quality that I would say is part of this kingdom within. There are people I come across that don't have that kingdom within feeling for me. So how many of those populate this reality, and how many of the people with a sense of themselves as having a connection to the omnipotence in that way, in that might be called a higher self, if you want, that is not dysfunctional, that is not nasty, horrible, creating shit shows whenever it can? What is the proportion of this, if we are a simulation. What is the proportion of true humans to non-true humans? And it may be, I think he said the number of 2080. I don't know if he did or if I make that up. But if we're 20% or 30% that are still people containing the essence of this to eternity in some way, those are the true human beings that are targeted by any and all of the suffering, as I would call the shit show called reality. We are the targets. And we're recipients of, nasty things. And I had a dream last night. I woke up and what I remember, I think the dream basically told me, I don't know if this is just a wishful thinking explanation for my situation, but that this reality in its complexity, let's say it's like a computer and we're just functioning gadgets within this computer simulation, and then we have, so many humans have that essence within them. Still, we are subject because of our bodies. We're subject to being manipulated. And my dream basically said that I was given the illness that I have. And I make a distinction here because there is lifestyle and all those things you can bring into it, in terms of your body can only take so much of a particular poison, and then it says, I'm sorry, I can't take it anymore. And this I see all the time. And in my case as well, there was a lifestyle, there was a way of living every day that was not wholesome, both physically and emotionally. And I'm still but I'm still actively attempting to balance that part of me that was out of balance. And maybe, it has worked, but not really, because I'm still dealing with an imbalance in me. And the dream basically said that I was given this illness aside from the way I behaved. The body could easily just have warned, and I do believe I got a warning. I got a warning in 2019, fall of 2019. I actually had an abscess on my intestine that the white coats drained and fixed with massive amounts of antibiotics that I was subjected to, and I was poisoned by those antibiotics. I still suffer from the poisoning, which is part of the gift that keeps on giving from the white coats. Oh yeah, they help you one way, but poison you another way. I have what is called cypro neuropathy. You can check this out. It's quite well known. The pharmaceuticals created an antibiotic that affects the nerves that could be quite debilitating in some ways, and not as debilitating, but creates fundamental nerve damage that leaves numbness in toes and weakness in the limbs. And this is my version of it, and it's been persistent. So whatever I have been able to do to reverse that. The other diagnosis, of course, as people who've listened to me, is I was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. And the hyena that diagnosed me, I shouldn't have gone back to him, but I went through a whole process of understanding and learning with what I was subjected to in the medical system, which is why I say the system is not there for you, you're there for them. And they will punish and mutilate you if they get a chance and opportunity. Fortunately, I had an instinct that said, you're not going to touch me, you prick. But I still maintained a level of, oh, maybe they can do something for me, knowing deep down that no, maybe even at the time, they're the cause. That guy wasn't the cause, but he would be part of the system that gave me what I have. And it's quite possible. Our body is susceptible to toxins. We're not. This vehicle requires maintenance all the time until it, leaves, until the essence, the soul leaves. This vehicle needs proper maintenance. You cannot ignore it. If you do the wrong things too much, you're going to be overwhelmed, out of balance, sick, die. From whatever. Okay, everybody dies. You say, yeah, okay, fine. But the last thing you really want is to be suffering with this vehicle if you don't need to. And one of the options that this simulation has is like a coding. We are just code in this system in some biological sense. I remember there was a Star Trek thing that had bioneural circuits that was actually not functioning. Their computer was a bioneural circuit. Isn't that interesting? They introduced this possibility that you can program biological beings. Bioneural circuits. Check it out. Yeah, weird shit. I mean, they understand stuff. So if in this simulation, this is from my dream, that I was coded with this affliction. And I was susceptible to being coded, maybe. I don't know how far we have autonomy within this essence of ourselves. The kingdom of God is within that essence part. To what extent we can counter any of this stuff coming towards us. And I believe that, when you say healthy lifestyle, it's quite comprehensive. The idea of a healthy lifestyle includes, everything from an emotional, spiritual, physical level. Healthy lifestyle. Yeah, it's a learning thing. Conscience being at the root of all that learning. That's what I've always said. And it comes up so little in people of insight. And, Howdie might say, well, yeah, of course. Well, spend some time on it. Try to investigate how conscience is related to compassion and sympathy and all the things that lift us out of this shit show. How do we get out of this shit show? Now, this obviously, what he is talking about is being prepared when you leave this bag of blood, this meat suit, as he calls it, that you're prepared. And he makes some very interesting conclusions, has some very interesting conclusions on this idea of being prepared. And I'm not really too clear on it entirely, other than one of the things he said, and this comes up quite often in terms of when people have near-death experiences, there is this underlying idea about the light, okay? The light always comes up. And the idea that we transition and have an experience, this is speculation. No one's ever come back, okay? This is a speculation, but the thoughtful mind, the noodle, says, okay, I'm willing to entertain this idea that when we transition out of this vehicle and whatever is that essence, soul, whatever you want to call it, or both, is in some way conditioned, okay? The experience has conditioned our essence to accept certain information. And if we don't challenge that information, we are trapped or even seduced. And I think the light, as he puts it, is a clever seduction to getting us to come back into this pit of suffering, this hellhole of suffering. And people, it's what it is. No matter how charmed your life might be, just reflect on the fact that genocide is happening now under our noses, has been happening on a scale, unbelievable scale in the Middle East with Palestine and Israel and all these operatives that are there for the system to create suffering more and more and more, and anger and hate and all that kind of stuff. It's operative. It's a shit show, horrible existence that we have around us. Maybe not you and me in a day-to-day sense, but I have it. I have experience of that suffering. Oh, it's for you to learn. Well, no. If we would learn from suffering, we'd be fucking brilliant right now. We'd be like, ethereal beings already. We don't learn from all the suffering. So what is it that is required of us for this preparation? He says, beware of the light. Don't go to the light. And I have an innate acceptance of that. I will not be fooled by the light. And he extrapolates, or he conjures up the idea that if you're not seduced to go to the light, what might it be that you're driven possibly to the light? And that could be some kind of event apparition in the transition that is so horrifying to us that says, oh no, anything but that. Anything but that. Based on our experience in the physical world, we would say, oh no, anything but that. I don't want Auschwitz. I don't want that, the gates of hell open. And no, I don't want that. Well, it's worthwhile to take this into this transition and say, I'm not going to be seduced, maybe by either, but definitely not by the light. Am I seduced by the fear of the really horrible thing, or do I go to the pleasantness of whatever, right? My inclination is to say, whatever we do, whatever I'm going to do is I'm not going to go into the light. I'm going to avoid that at all costs, because it means that you're coming back into light. Suggests this reality, because that's what it is. Light is everything. Light is all around us all the time. So when you see the light in a near-death experience, you're going back to reality that you came from. He's been asked about the preparation toward this end, and he has ventured out some ideas, some thoughts. He's also said that if this reality found him to be a threat, he would be dead already, which means he hasn't arrived. He admitted this, which is it's a good point, that if this reality is threatened in any way, we see it all the time, it eliminates, or it appears to eliminate, players that are in the way in some form or other, to showing us what is really happening. Those with insight, those whistleblowers about the nature of eternity, would be either, asked to leave, however that works, and then that's fantastic. I'm gone. I'm out of here. I am joined in the oneness of omnipotence, conscious, and whatever. This is ultimately the goal, to have that sense of connectedness to something that is, as I say, the magnificence, what I conjure in my mind, what that eternity might be. That connection is what every human soul with the essence yearns to be joined to. Not taking all your profits into the next existence and coming back. This has nothing, we're way beyond that. And anyone that is preoccupied with the real world from the sense of material, anything material, is on the wrong path. It's just straightforward. We all know this. I mean, greedy people, fine, live your life, satisfying all your depraved needs, and so what? Big deal. There is a much larger operation in front of us if we are truly conscious and people of conscience. I think I've said a lot, and this I want to emphasize again that it's a bit long. What is it? 37 minutes. That I'm missing this in Howdie, the idea of our part in this so-called simulation and ending it. I think I agree with him that as we exit, if we're able to, we actually facilitate the cease and desist order that should be on this reality the way it is. Maybe it can exist in some way where it is much more, not only much more, but entirely as a unity, not a duality, however that might be. Okay, I'll just look at my notes, what I had. The soul as related to consciousness. I don't know what I was going to say there. The soul related to consciousness. What is that? Is consciousness everything, or is there something even more than consciousness? Like what I conceive of to be consciousness is the ability to feel something that is not material but very real. So consciousness is that which is not real but more real than the real. Many people have said this. Many people have referred to this. Even Cliff High talks about that reality is a consequence of consciousness, not the other way around. But science, the fuckheads wanna dupe us into saying, well, there's stuff, matter, and then consciousness enters that matter. No, it doesn't work that way. It's the other way around. Okay, that's why the Hadron Collider is a bunch of hooey attempting to discover consciousness out of matter. It doesn't work that way. They're fools. They can dismantle that little donut, 50-mile donut that they speed particles in and all that kind of shit. Like and that's another ruse. I think they create these phenomenal problems that get us all mesmerized and seduced into, oh, they're so smart. Oh, are they ever smart? Einstein's smart. Tesla's smart. Everybody's smart. Well, Tesla had some smart. I'm sure there are very smart people that can play the system here that is known as reality, but ultimately we don't want to be part of it. Howdie Mickoski, we don't want to be part of it, no matter how brilliant it might be. So underlying everything, consciousness, is there something more? I'm still working with that concept. What is consciousness beyond? What is the next level? Or is that all there is? And that's fine. Let it be all there is. I don't know. The other thing that comes up, I made a note, logic and reason is a path to understanding, up to a point. Oh yeah, I wanted to touch on this, creativity. That's my last thing now. That he's not dismissive of art and artists and what they have contributed, but I think the contribution literally is to be witness to the essence of this inner spark that we have. Art, as it emerges out of what we understand to be creativity, logic, reason is part of that, but there's much more to it than logic and reason. It bears witness to the essence in some way. So my effort always, I never thought about this, but my effort to make paintings and make paintings that feel good to me are literally representations of my essence that is connected unconsciously, not through any direct knowledge, to eternity. I've always said this, my sense of being part of something larger. So creativity is essential in this. Howdie dismisses it as like, oh, just another seduction. I don't think so. Yes, you can manipulate creativity in art, which is happening all the time, to produce more shit show stuff. But in its purest form, the creative soul is a soul that represents this essence in the music, in the writing, in the painting, in whatever creative aspect, if you're specifically around art. So this is something beyond logic and reason. So when you sit there rationalizing, thinking about stuff and telling me shit, you're not losing, but you're missing. If you don't recognize this aspect of our nature, you're missing a very important component, because reason and logic is maybe 10%. And the creative side is maybe 50%. I don't know, there's other things involved. I'm just leaving the door open. I'm just saying it's a really important part of this questioning, of this journey towards understanding. It's not just reason and logic. I'm sure he'd agree, but he hasn't really addressed it. He basically sees creativity as just another trap. You could be in the mouse wheel of creativity, over and over and over and over. Yeah, you could be, but at the same time, it is a path towards not just recognizing, but exercising that higher ability that we have to get connected and help us on the exit to get out of this shit show simulation. The fallen ones. Okay, the last thing I have here is the fallen dysfunctional entities that may be responsible for this reality, not the God that everybody venerates. Oh, God created the heavens and the earth and all this kind of stuff, and the biblical stories that literally reflect what we're in. Yes, the dysfunctional reality we're in. The omnipotent being in the Bible is a fuckhead, is a piece of shit that makes us suffer over and over and over and delights in the deaths and the suffering of all the creatures he's created. Okay? She's created, whatever that entity was. It's spelled out in the Bible. It says, people, we got you over a barrel. You're in a shit show and you're going to suffer like crazy. That's what the Bible says. And here are the rules to follow. And if you don't, you're the guilty one. These are the tablets of ultimate truth you better follow. Otherwise, we're going to kick the shit out of you. So the whole thing is documented. The fallen ones rule the roost in biblical story. There is an exception as you proceed into Christian scriptures with this entity called Jesus, who appears in some form or other to open the gap a little bit more in the door. So something is a little different. Something has changed. And I'm keeping the door open the way Howdie has kept the door open in terms of the Cathars and the Gnostics, who seem to be able to understand this reality as being a delusion, an illusion, and were persecuted for it. The Gnostics and the Cathars especially were eliminated off the face of the earth because they presented a threat with their idea. Oh my God, where else do we see this now? You present an idea, you're a threat, you're going to be silenced, you're going to be, YouTube will kick the shit out of you, right? Because you're not allowed to say certain things. Where have we seen this before? So we're recycling this experience again, where people who are actually driving us closer to a better understanding of who we are being silenced, are being killed, are being whatever, peripheralized, blacklisted, what do they call that, shadowed, banned, and whatever that is. So the dysfunctional creative force that has presented us with this experience called reality, fallen from grace. There is a lot of stories around this. Howdie goes into this as well, that the creators of this simulation, like the Matrix, basically requires some perverse satisfaction out of our excessive energy, emotional energy, whatever that is. It is pervertedly draining us and enjoying whatever this reality offers to its etherealness in terms of our suffering. The entities that have created this reality are delighting us in our misfortune. I've said this quite often before. This is something quite weird, that there are many that delight in the misfortunes to the extreme, to genocide, torture, all that kind of stuff. There are entities that seem to delight both in the physical world and, as Howdie calls out, in the ethereal world, the astral world. So these are dysfunctional. I'm not attached whatsoever to this astral ethereal world. I place no importance, because I don't feel any help from this. At least up until this point, I cannot say I have felt any kind of assistance and help from a world that is not physical, meaning the ethereal world, the astral world, whatever is referred to. The apparitions that I have are fucked up shit kind of circumstances, either seductive or frightening. And I'm sort of coming to terms with those as well, because I'm doing the best I can to detach myself, so I'm no longer in their crosshairs. I don't want to be targeted by them, because maybe they want to extract a little bit more of my emotional energy through the fear or whatever. So anyway, I'll leave it there. I think I've covered quite a bit, and I'm very appreciative of Howdie Mickoski what he has presented to me has given me a lot of maneuvering room that I really appreciate. And yeah, I'm working on myself, on balancing myself. If I don't, I consider the possibility, I don't know if I should or shouldn't, but of not being able to do it, that, you know, I'm 71, and you know, it's a reasonable amount of time to have been part of this experience. Um, I think I'll end it. What I think for me, what's important is to resolve, regardless of age, you know, I want to be 90 or 100 or whatever, or I'm still alive, have fantastic. What I need to be more able to deal with, which I haven't really done yet, is I'm quite attached. I'm very attached. Um, I'm this this is curious. I'm still very attached to something that I'm experiencing, possibly the people in my life. Maybe I'm, although I'm not sure about that. But whatever it is that I'm able to do in terms of resolving an anomaly, and like this is literally an anomaly, that like when we say we're afraid to die and all this, I would fool myself. You know, it's like I'm kind of like in a peculiar camp. I'm not as afraid as I used to be, let's say, but I still have trepidation. And I think what it might be is that I'm not, as Howdie says, that I'm not prepared. So I'm still focusing on the world and making things work in the world that satisfies me now, that it's okay to die or something. But I don't think that's how it works. I think it literally has to do with being prepared on a really important fundamental level, that when we transition, and I'm saying I'm alive now, according to the asshole that diagnosed me, I should have died a painful death already. Uh, you know, that was the conclusion he had. If you don't come and see me, you're going to die a painful death. Well, it's been over 2 years, and I'm still kicking. Not 100%, but I'm still kicking. And I am resolved to sorting this out before my transition. Is it going to be 20 years? Is it going to be 1 year, 6 months? I don't know. But I keep my mind open as much as I can to all the possibilities, and I let things come, wash over me, and let it, you know, especially the things that are giving me difficulties and a sense of apprehension, not just it for myself, but what I see going on around me. I have a great deal of apprehension in terms of other people. What I would say is a compassion and a sympathy that I've grown into much more than I used to have. My God, 52 minutes is okay. I'll do another video. Maybe I have to split this in two. All the best.